So it's going to tell us at 6:34. And as I said earlier, but Zoom said for us, the meeting will be recorded. It will not be live streamed, but it can be archived, so all parties need to know that it's being recorded. So we've called the meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting today on the traditional territory of the Denizah and Treaty 8. Are there any additions to our regular board meeting agenda? Can I get a mover and a seconder then to accept the agenda, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by Ida. All in favor? Great. We're at 3.0, presentations and delegations. And I would like to, at this point in time, introduce Corey from KPMG, who is our auditor, and he is going to take us through our financial statement for the school year that's just ended. And we will be looking at some point for a motion to approve those financial statements. You'll note on anything that you have, they're in draft now, and they can't move out of draft till we've had a motion to accept them. So we'll turn it over to Corey.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And so we've been through the detailed review of the audit results with the board. And at this point, what we'd like to do is take you through a high-level financial statement presentation so that you can review the results and review the financial statements. So just going through this presentation, plan to talk about our audit report and then a quick financial review, and then talk to the notes, and I can take any questions at the end of this presentation. So with respect to our auditor's report, it is an independent auditor's report, and independent is an important word there because we do provide an independent opinion on the financial statements. So they are management's financial statements, and we come in and perform our audit procedures in order to provide our opinion on those financial statements and that they are a fair representation of the results and operations for the year. We do anticipate issuing a clean audit opinion based on our audit to date, but obviously our audit report stays in draft until the financial statements are approved by the board. So moving on to the assets of the school district number 60. So all of these assets are as of June 30th, 2021, and these are represented on the statement of financial position. So we can see the assets are made up of cash, accounts receivable, inventories for resale, prepaid expenses, and tangible capital assets. We can see that the cash balance is increased by approximately $2.6 million, largely resulting from the surplus that was created and also the collection of the receivables. Last year, there was $3.8 million of receivables. This year, $600,000, largely due to the collection of Ministry of Education receivables due to the construction of a school in the previous year. Inventories from resale are the same at $116,000, and prepaid expenses have increased by about $200,000 to $392,000. Tangible capital assets, this represents all of the physical assets such as schools, furnitures, and equipment of the district. That's increased from $133 million to $139 million at the end of 2021. This largely represents the investment into new schools that was made at the end of last year. So it was kind of, the new school opened up in about September. So some of the expenses were incurred in 2020 and held in work in progress, and then finished off in 2021. When we look at a breakdown of those accounts receivables, as I mentioned earlier, there was amounts due, about $2.7 million due from the Ministry of Education in the previous year, largely due to capital activities related to the construction of the new school. Other receivables represent about $599,000, and largely the decrease comes from collection of federal government monies. Moving on to the tangible capital assets. So this is a busy slide that shows the changes in the various categories of tangible capital assets for the year. And we can see that the majority of the investment was in those buildings, $36 million increase. However, $29 million of that increase was invested in 2020 and held in buildings work in progress. And that would have been transferred into the buildings category this year, and amortization would start on that addition. The additions to tangible capital assets are offset by the depreciation expense, or what we call amortization. The amortization was about $3.4 million for the year. So you can see that at the bottom of the slide, $64 million to $67 million is the accumulated amortization. So total tangible capital assets, as shown previously, was just under $140 million at the end of the year. Moving on to the statement of financial position showing the liabilities. So these are the amounts owing as of June 30th. So there's accounts payable and accrued liabilities. So these would include some trade payables. The trade payables are largely what's led to the decrease from $9.4 million in the previous year. But this also includes some accrued liabilities related to employee payables, such as vacation pay and other employment accruals. Unearned revenue represents tuition fees that have been collected in advance for the future school year. So that amount's increased from $62,000 to $400,000 at the end of 2021. Employee future benefits, this represents estimates for sick leave and severance for employees of the district. That's $909,000 at the end of the year, an increase from $676,000. And this estimate is provided by Mercer, which is an actuarial firm that's hired by the ministry. So the total liabilities before the deferred revenue and deferred capital revenue were $9.7 million, so a decrease from the previous year of $10.2 million. Moving on to deferred revenues. So these are the amounts of revenues that were received, and they have stipulations on them. So they're recognized alongside the expenses. So as the programs are delivered and expenses are incurred, the revenues are brought into revenue. Any revenues that are left over from grants with stipulations are held as deferred revenue. And you can see at the end of the year, there was $3.1 million of deferred revenue for School District 60 for programs to be delivered in future years. That's an increase of $635,000. Deferred capital revenue, these are grants received from ministry or the federal government for capital operations. So $3.2 million was the increase in deferred capital revenue. So those grants are held as liabilities, and the revenue is brought in to offset the amortization cost or the expense related to the assets that are acquired, such as the buildings. The total deferred revenues at the end of the year were $114.6 million. Moving on to the schedule of operations. So this shows all of the operations, including the operating fund, the special purpose funds, and the capital funds. So the total revenues for the year were $84.4 million. That's that middle column, which shows the actual. The numbers on the left are the budget for 2021, and the numbers on the right are comparative from 2020. So $84.4 million was in excess of the budget, and also an increase from the previous year. And largely we've seen increases across all districts due to grants related to the safe return to schools and COVID costs that were incurred by the districts to operate through the pandemic. Expenses in the budget were anticipated to be about $84.9 million, and they came in at $82.4 million. Compared to actual expenses in the previous year of $80.6 million. So revenues less expenses gives you a surplus or deficit. So there was a budgeted deficit of $666,000. The actual numbers came in at $2 million compared to an actual deficit in the previous year of $246,000. So moving on, we break down that $2,050,000 into what was generated from operations and what was generated by capital activities. So we can see the operating fund actually had a small deficit of $375,000 for the year compared to $952,000 in the previous year. The capital funds had an increase of $2.4 million compared to $705,000 from the previous year. So that those two numbers together generate that accumulated surplus or deficit that we've seen over the past 2 years. When we look at the total accumulation of operating funds, we can see that the balance as of June 30th, 2021 is just under $3.5 million for operations. And for the capital fund, $28.7 million. So an increase in the capital fund is anticipated with the addition of capital assets. And then the operating fund had a small decrease due to the operating fund deficit in the year. The notes to the financial statements contain all of the significant accounting policies and practices, and those are disclosed in note 3 to the financial statements. So at this point, I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll look to the room and I'll stop sharing my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey.
Are there any questions? Aaron doesn't have any. Corey, a few years ago, when we were looking at this, our district was in what they called a structural deficit. Is it fair to say that we're out of that, even though there's a little bit of discrepancy in that one account?
So there's an operating fund surplus of $3.4 million. The operating fund would be the fund that would be generating surpluses or deficits. So we've seen a few deficits out of the operating fund for the past 2 years, but whether it would be a structural deficit, I'm not sure how you classify that. Or I know that the funding, you'd have to take a look at the structure of the funding that's coming in versus the costs that the district is incurring. So, and part of that is looking at the forecasts, which maybe Angela would have a better take on.
I was trying to remember, what's the enrollment difference between 1920 and 2021?
1920 and 2021.
Yeah, because it was the 1920 that we were looking at advance, right? And I was trying to remember what the FTE was that budget was based on. And what this one was based on, the FTE.
That's a great question, Helen.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
It just came to me. Because when we talk about the fact that we're already up 100 students for next year, we're going to perhaps see the same kind of thing where what we thought hasn't happened, but enrollment is a factor in that.
Right, and we'll be able to capture that
In the adjusted,
in the amended budget.
in the amended budget, okay, okay.
I'm just trying to find you the numbers. Can I find you the numbers and send
Yeah,
them?
that's fine. I'm trying to wrap my head around a couple of things.
Yeah, and I think even when we look at the operating deficit for the year, there were operating funds used in the current year to fund some of the capital improvements as well. So if we were to look at schedule 2,
Yep.
which is the schedule of operations, it's got one of my favorite names in school district financial statements. You can actually see from operations, there was an operating surplus of 2.4, but there was a transfer of $2.8 million to tangible capital assets, and you wouldn't anticipate those transfers to happen necessarily annually. So structural deficit would be, I think, a little heavy-handed when you're generating operating surpluses of $2.4 million.
No, I'm just, because that was the term that was used, and that was what we were looking at, doing some changes and things to get out of, and I think we're out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to look into, I think that was a little before my time, so
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, Angela, I should have.
you don't have to be sorry. I will,
Nothing like getting blindsided.
I wasn't trying to
you're
blindside.
not blindsiding me, it's all good.
Gonna have to work harder to do that, I guess.
I'll cry myself to sleep tonight, but there's no blindsiding happening.
Are there any other questions for either Angela or Corey?
Can I, Angela,
Yeah.
thank you for your slide presentation at our trustee advance, because I have no questions because I get it.
Yes.
Nice, look at that.
You were listening, you mean?
I was listening and I was taking notes. Well, no, I wasn't taking notes. That's a total lie, but I was listening and I understood.
Excellent, thank you.
Mental notes.
So you don't have to cry tonight. You can,
I'm smiling under my mask. Thank you very much.
So,
So now we
can I get someone to make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 financial statements and other required documentation that will be signed and submitted to the ministry by September 30th, 2021? Moved by David, seconded by Bill. All in favor? Thank you very much, Corey, for your presentation and your work for
Great.
us.
Thank you, Angela, for all your hard work. It's been a pleasure, and I've got 10 minutes left to go do my civic duty and go vote, so I better run. But thanks a lot for having me.
thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, moving on to agenda item 4, trustee input and celebrations, and we'll start with trustee Campbell.
I really don't have anything to report this time.
Trustee Evans.
well, it's kind of loosely, I guess, school district related, even though the money raised went to help with seniors programming in the community. But I, as a Rotary member, I did go out and help put the bag breakfast stuff together, and I wasn't able to actually help that morning because I had to take the kids because Dan was helping. But yeah, it was really cool. They sold like 1,680 breakfasts or something like that, and last year, I think it was last year, the money went to the breakfast programs at the school district. It was either last year or the year before, and so yeah, it's just a really great fundraiser. And other than that, I have nothing. I've just been super busy with my own work. So yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Gillis.
Well, Beth has a sub school, and I am coaching again this year. My daughter's grade 7, 8, 9 volleyball, so we're very excited that there's going to actually be some games, and we have a good team. Watch out. And then one thing I do need some clarity on is I attend the PAC meetings, and I'm often there as a trustee. So I don't vote, I don't have input, but I'm there as a liaison. But they're actually really needing members, so I would like to be there as a parent, but there seems to be some. So if I could get some clarity at some point on that, if I can.
Sorry, Ida will probably remember this, and maybe Bill, there was a big issue with this with some school board trustees out in the East Coast, and it was a conflict.
And what we've done in the past, Nicole, if you want to be a parent rather than a trustee representative of that PAC, sometimes we have sent a different trustee to represent the PAC, like for trustees. I know we've done that in towns.
Yeah, but she's voted out at that zone, right? That was the challenge in the East Coast too, was they were voted in those zones.
You're representing two parties in the same meeting.
Yeah.
What I might suggest,
We'll
Chair, is
clarify
that we
that.
can both follow up in terms of that clarity, both from the BCSTA
Yeah.
as well as from our own sources to get some clarity on that. No
Perfect.
problem.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
That's it for me.
multiple personalities.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, well, I think I was in last one, we met with the DPAC executive. It's always good to get a bit of a pulse and hear from them. Attended the Clearview PAC, very positive because they had an admin change. And so far, off to the races very well. So that was good to hear. And also extra student numbers. So that was, numbers are up, so that's good. Yeah. And then I guess Canada Labor Management meeting as well.
Trustee Scott Moncrief?
I've talked to most of my administrators. Everything seems to be going all right. No major issues. So looking forward to seeing them all next.
Trustee Snow?
I've been by to all three of my schools twice this month. Once the first week to welcome them back, and then the past 2 days, Friday and today, to see how everything's going. ELC, one of the things there is they're very happy with the city, because the city has closed the track in the morning for about an hour, so the ELC gets to use it. Okay. They have roughly about 22 kids that are mask exempt, so they're running into an issue with that. So that's what the city did in exchange, which they're very happy about. Lori said they're a little bit fuller than normal, but she said it's going really good. Bird Ambrose, I'm gonna give a shout out to Lori. She's all smiles and cheery kind of thing. She's got a new teacher, primary teacher, first year teaching, just showed up from Ontario and didn't have a place to stay. So she's staying at Lori's until she gets a place. So I mean, not as only a principal, you know, helping find and hire a teacher, she's also putting her up. North Peace, I mean, Christine's been there for a bit. Todd and Chris got the new roles, and they're both smiling and enjoying it and very happy over there. Okay.
So I got to help with bulletin boards at Bell and I conscripted my very artistic niece. And so Bob the cat, who resides at Bell welcomed the kids, and he was wearing a backpack, and apparently it was well noticed and the kids are enjoying the bulletin boards. Like Madeline, I met with the DPAC executive prior to school startup just to get a pulse for the community, and we came away from that meeting very much dealing with the concept that we have a polarization in our community that we have to be cognizant of and a little bit careful of. I did do the presentation to the Select Financial Standing Committee, attended the Joint Health and Safety meeting, and I represented you at the new teacher orientation. There was quite a large group on September the 2nd, a smaller group on the 9th. I would like to publicly say thank you to all of our staff that were involved in putting that on, because it was much appreciated by the new teachers. Very professionally done, and even I was trying to figure that in the second meeting, this one person out, well, he was hired partway through last year and he didn't get to come to new teacher orientation, but he heard it was kind of fun and a good way to connect. So even though he worked with us for a few months, he was at new teacher orientation. So that was actually a really nice connection for some of the brand new to town people that were there. And I assured them that the trustees are very interested in what's happening in their classroom and not to hesitate to reach out and tell us what they're excited about or invite us to see what was going on. So I did do a board chair call. I went online and attended Mike Roberts' retirement so that we were represented at that. And that's kind of about it. Looking forward to maybe getting out to some Terry Fox runs this week. A lot of the schools are involved with those, so hopefully I'll get to one at least.
Which grade did you do bulletin boards with?
The whole school. We did the entry ones and some of the ones in the hallways, so.
Did some of the smaller kids you had to help them reach?
No.
And then the bigger kids helped you reach?
No, my niece is very tall, Bill.
Bill's on fire tonight.
Yes. All right, moving on to 5.0, minutes of the regular board meeting of August 30th. And that's pages 6 to 12 in your package.
I do have a question there.
Okay.
David's marked absent, but he's also marked for approving the agenda.
David was there,
Yes, I knew that.
so that's a mistake. All right, we'll get that corrected in the minutes.
That was my mistake.
No, it's better to find it. I didn't catch that. Okay, so we will make that correction and have the minutes changed. Right.
And I think this is included in that. Our NID and our NIB is here now. Is it just the Saturday? Okay, that's what I thought. On here it says 2 days.
Yeah.
Making sure.
Well, and I don't know that we go back and change it, because at the time we were meeting, that was what it was, but that change will be reflected for this meeting. All right, we're working on errors and omissions, which is okay, but I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Nicole, seconded by Bill. Any other errors or omissions? Okay. All in favor then of those minutes, all right? Business arising from the minutes. So I've been sending things back and forth to you about the apples, and the form tonight has circulated. We've started by scheduling people to deliver to the schools that they're liaison for, but both Bill and myself have some extra time in our schedule, so if you're unable to do the schools that you're liaison for whatever reason, then we'll look at picking it up. When I looked at what people sent me, it didn't make sense to do it on, we talked about a 2-week window. It didn't make sense to do it over the 2-week window, because in that second week, you were dealing with people just coming back off of Thanksgiving. And it was just a 4-day week, and 2 of those days I'm in Vancouver for meetings, so I couldn't really do any deliveries that week. So my week to be able to help was the week before. So I did ask Allie to order the apples. I haven't heard that she, and I'm assuming they've been ordered, and we'll follow up back and forth with that.
Helen, just for you and Bill, I may need help because 2 of my schools have more boxes of apples, and I don't know if I'd be able to handle that right now.
And that's
So
great.
I'll get
That's
a
why.
hold
For you, anything.
Absolutely. So we'll look at doing that for you right now. So are there any questions about what I sent you? Okay. Clear as mud. So, financial standing committee update was way scarier to talk to people than it was to just send a letter. Angela, we did it in Angela's office, and just to keep in line with how much Bill's bugging me tonight, I was sitting on 3 packs of paper. Because that was what I needed to do to be able to be picked up by the camera. So I will own that right now, Bill. There was 4 different presenters. There was Sunshine Coast, Prince George, and another, I think it was Okanagan kind of district, a smaller district. Food insecurity was a big issue for one district. Prince George had lots of things to speak to. All presentations spoke to the problems with not enough capital money to deal with the aging infrastructure of buildings and enrollment needs. And so there was certainly some common themes in what was presented. And then at the end, there was an opportunity for questions, and I think there was 5 questions and I got 3 of them, so I really don't know what that means, whether I was clear or unclear. But I really did make a point of having them understand the 101 situation, and as I said to you earlier, use the concept that your postal code should not determine your educational opportunity, and right now it is in the district in that case. And so we spoke to that, and I'm not sure who the MLA was, but they asked if the ministry was aware of our problems, and I said absolutely, and it's on their books. We're just looking for something to happen. Then on the element of recruitment and retention, I got asked some questions about that. And now that you see what's come out about supports for healthcare people, it was, would some of those kinds of incentives help with recruitment and retention? And I said, well, we spoke to that in our letter last year, and you know that we're up against the incentives that are coming in Alberta, where we have kids that were born and raised in Fort St. John, graduate and aren't coming back to Fort St. John because they can get a better deal on forgivable student loans when they go and teach in Grand Prairie, which by Alberta standards is deemed to be remote and rural. So I was able to hammer that home. The third question is escaping me, so I'm hoping Angela knows what it was.
Now she's blindsided you.
Oh, you're killing me tonight.
It doesn't really matter.
Does to me.
Well, I was supposed to give Helen notes on that I took, and obviously I haven't. And I have the retention of a NAT. so
Well,
I can
anyways,
help you.
we got 3 of 5 questions, so you can decide whether that's good news or bad
Oh, that's
news.
great.
So,
You got to say more.
no, yeah, I was the only one that kind of went over time.
Well done, Bill.
All right, moving on to announcements and reminders. So we will, you can see, Bill, that we do have that change in there for the NIB meetings. I did attend the first NPA meeting today via Teams, and that was kind of a bit of an experience. They have not set the rest of their dates for the year for NPA meetings. They were going to do it in this meeting, and so once I get those dates, I will circulate them and see who else would like to start off NPA meetings. Hopefully we'll get back to having some of them in person, but we may or may not. So are there any other announcements and reminders related to meeting dates and things coming up?
And I'm guessing we're gonna get more information yet.
Yeah, more information will be forthcoming. They've told us who the, you know the name, the guest presenter is for the NIB.
Oh, Dr. Louis.
Dr. Louis.
Dustin Louis, who's actually from the same area that I grew up in, Carrier territory.
And we have invited
Arlene.
Carlene to join us for that, because he will be talking about the equity standard and things like that. And it seemed very relevant to her portfolio, and it would be good if we had questions to have her there. So, any other announcements, reminders?
The one on the 22nd October,
Mm-hmm.
that's the school, the ones in the schools, oranges and stuff.
Yeah.
They can send out what it is, kind of thing, in
Okay.
case we want to go to anything. Please.
That's also the, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll just speak to the November 4th and 5th BCPC symposium. That is going to be via Zoom. I think Ida will speak to it a little bit later, but it is something that's open, basically, if it's on Zoom, to anybody that wants to attend. So we'll go from there. Moving on to senior staff reports. Stephen.
Thank you, Helen. There are a number of items here. So number one is our regular activity report. Number two is a bit more detailed in terms of a quick update on our enrollment and staffing. Overall, it reflects the increase that Helen alluded to previously in terms of approximately 100 more than what we projected for and upon which our budget was based. Overall, good news and a good problem to have. And there's also some notes here where we've added divisions. I guess a couple of standouts would be percentage-wise, Upper Pine saw a significant increase, which is great, and as did a few other schools. As per one of your questions in the past as well, the backside of the handout includes information on the new hires. You'll see that mostly from Ontario and the BC, but there are a number from across Canada. So if there are questions, we'll get to those later. Item number 3 is pleased to announce that I completed my doctorate of education in late summer through the University of Kansas. And you'll recall that I was with a cohort of 20 other leaders across British Columbia. I forgot some.
Sorry, I have a text from Erin. She needs David to shift a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I've not actually got to this part
Yeah,
yet. Yeah,
so-
so when we do, yes.
When we do.
So there was my dissertation, which was the main aspect of the doctorate, was on adolescent use of social media, and it did use a sample population from our local area and provided some information, and I've put into the public agenda the results and the findings from that study. Item number 4, I'll be asking for a motion to approve posts of responsibility, of course, at this time of the year across our middle and secondary schools. And get to education. Under the superintendent's reports, really it's just one item, and that is the public education report. You'll recall that I introduced that for the first time last year, and it basically gives an overview of our education programming and achievement from 2020-2021. It's a fairly lengthy report, but it gives some artifacts, some pictures from around our district, and an update on our basically educational program in the School District 60. So I would encourage the trustees and the public to have a look through that. Oh, and at the bottom of that, please don't miss take 3, where Bert Bowes, we appreciate that they submitted a number of pictures from their Spirit Week, and so have a look at those. And some different kinds of walkways throughout their school, an Indigenous themed welcome painting that's now in their entranceway. Duncan Cran also included information on their Apple Schools initiative. And finally, a nice picture. I forgot to actually take one last year, but these are administrators during the summer advance at Ann Roberts Young Elementary School. And it's hard to see, but we're all there and had a good retreat. Okay, so the next part of that is you'll see in your documentation the summarized version, the summary version of our education report. And I'll be asking for a motion to approve that. That, along with the data addendum, is, as per the ministerial order, required for each school district to submit between June and September 30th. And the cycle for our district is to submit that at the end of September. So that is a summary report of our progress over the previous year, along with the strategies we have to address some of the gaps in our achievement. And I'll be asking for that to be approved, and staff will be sending that into the ministry after that. Next item, community coaches, looking for a motion to approve. Of course, at this time of the year, a number of coaches, and finally out of district field trips as per the information submitted. That's my report.
We'll make the motions at the appropriate time.
Correct.
But let's go through and give people an opportunity to ask questions of the various elements of the report. So any questions related to the human resources summary report for teachers? Bill?
Would you or somebody be able to send us numbers for TOCs? Like the number we have, and then certified and non-certified kind of breakdown?
Sure. That'll be for either committee or next meeting, no problem. You bet.
Enrollment and staffing update. Some good news stories there. Addition of divisions is nice, especially in some of our rural schools. Are there any? Oh, thanks, Erin. All right, are there any questions related to that?
Small list, too much. Good. 1, 2, 1, 8, 1, 2.
Oh, sorry, what are you looking at there?
The teaching opportunities right now on our website.
Yeah, there are always some bits and bobs.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
they're normal. I think it's small.
So I started the discussion without a mover and a seconder
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Stephen's
yeah,
report.
yeah.
So if I could have a mover and a seconder, moved by Ida, seconded by David. Now we'll carry on with the discussion because I was ahead of myself. Well, enrollment and staffing update we just did. The graph that is in this was shown at new teachers, and it's quite nice to kind of see. And we know that 2 years ago we were speaking to higher recruitment costs because we were hiring so many people from out of province. And you can see that that still is a factor for us. But it's interesting to see where they're coming from.
Helen, I'll add to your comment at the beginning of the meeting in terms of the job our HR department does for the new teacher orientation, but as part of that, the whole recruitment process was recognized by all of our new teachers as excellent. Also, the fact that the board approved doubling the relocation allowance, I believe it was 2 years ago, as I've heard the new teachers, that many of them have told me that was a significant factor, and it was a real incentive.
Right, the next item was Stephen's doctorate. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
What are you doing with all your time now?
Yeah.
My weekend.
Erin,
Yeah, I had a question about, now I can't remember what it was, but there's a difference in the social media that's used between the Canadian kids versus the American kids. And I think, the Canadian kids use TikTok more and the American kids use Instagram more. And I'm wondering, did you notice, is there, I guess, a knowledge gap in that area determining whether or not it's because of TikTok versus Instagram, or like, has there been research on that?
So, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. The American study in 2018, which they do sort of every 2 years around the behaviors of social media used by adolescents, did not even have TikTok as an option of one of the top 10 social media platforms. Under the advice of my advisor, we included that for the Canadian study, and fortunately we did, because it came out as the second most popular after Snapchat. And, even Instagram is moving down the list, being replaced by both Snapchat and TikTok. So there's no real, in the study, it doesn't really talk about why TikTok has become more popular, but certainly it has. And it's a difference between the two countries. What I'll also add, Erin, is that Facebook is in serious decline by youth. In 2018, in the United States, it was already declined to about 10% of adolescents choosing it as the most used platform. The Canadian study here it was down to 2% as the most used platform. It's really now just as a platform for adults and companies, but not youth.
Wow.
So is there any correlation though between the social media platforms that are being used and their happiness quotient? the negatives are positive? Because that's, I did notice that you had stated that the Canadians were, they had more negative impacts of social media use and the Americans had more positive. So I'm just wondering if it's the type of social media that.
Yeah, the study didn't correlate to the type of platform related to that particular response, but you pointed out that Canadian students themselves have said that it is more a negative effect than a positive effect from using social media. Now, the majority still say that there's neither positive nor negative, but when they choose, more are actually saying that it's a negative effect, that it has a negative impact on their lives, more so than a positive impact.
But no studies on the correlation, between the types and the, okay.
No.
Is there anything that surprised you?
Yes, I was surprised to see how strong the correlation was and the statistical difference between girls and boys. We all have these assumptions about how adolescent girls versus boys use social media, but the fact that my study was absolutely in alignment with previous research that shows that girls post content far more than boys for approval, as well as selfies and content for likes, and that was a significant statistical difference between the two genders. And so that was a bit of a surprise. I was a bit disappointed that there was not more distinct results for our Indigenous students. Generally speaking, they follow the same patterns as the rest of the adolescent population around which platforms they choose, whether they thought it was positive or negative. I would like to do or see further studies because previous research has shown that our Indigenous populations can actually benefit quite a bit from the community that can be created online. It's a way to continue some of their traditions and get support, but also there are negative aspects too. So don't let me keep talking here. I'll take the entire evening.
Any hypothesis why females post more than for selfies and likes?
Well, some of the.
You figure that out.
Well, yeah. There's well, you're going down basically, research into the cognitive development of adolescents, and some of the studies there, the empirical evidence shows that there's different, for example, brain activity in girls versus boys when they're posting content, and when they get approval. When someone clicks on a like, their brain activity changes, and it's more of a reactive state for girls than it is for boys. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the biggest thing is that whatever adolescents do, they are motivated by belonging to a group of peers.
Absolutely.
Can I get a motion to accept the post of responsibility as presented in your agenda package, please?
I think we have to approve his report, don't we? And then, except for the motions?
I think we
And
already.
then we do the motions.
I have
Isn't that-
a seconder, so all in favor? All right, moving on to post of responsibility, moved by Madeline, seconded by Nicole. All right, superintendent's report. Any questions related to that? Bill?
I'm assuming all the out-of-district field trips are all tentative with everything that's going on in Alberta?
Yeah, all based on any evolving change in the regulations or rules, absolutely.
I learned this weekend that Alberta is not going per province.
Interesting.
It's going by like counties.
Right.
East River, Alberta, for example, is going to require rapid testing like right away, where Grand Prairie is sitting waiting to see what they're going to do.
Yes, and so we'll be following that closely. Thanks for that reminder, and anything that's out of compliance will have to be changed.
Not that I want to go places, but
Right. Looking at the concept that we have a report that's been prepared to meet the ministerial order on for the vessel. Are there any questions related to that report?
Helen, can I clarify that the addendum, if you know, I'm looking at it's called the Enhancing Student Learning Report data.
Yeah.
That's part of the FESL report. Every district includes that package with their summary,
Yeah, because that's the data the ministry is.
provides back to us.
Provides back to us, but they want to see it in the report.
Correct.
Give people a quick chance
You
to
bet.
take a look.
Hi, I'm just wondering if I missed something because I have no idea what's going on right now. Have we moved the superintendent's report, and going into moving the motions now? I don't know what we're doing. I couldn't hear anything, so I have no idea.
Sorry, Erin, we did move the superintendent's report. And just before we make the motion on the FESL, we were giving people an opportunity to look at it. But thank you for reaching out because it's hard to know. Zoom in. Are there any questions related to this for Stephen at this point in time?
So this is the one you're sending in here for, the date would be September 30th, but whatever, I mean, it's obviously ready. And,
Following this meeting tomorrow, I'll be sending off to the administration.
okay, and then besides the report, or the summary, the report goes with it.
Yeah, that is the piece, that's the 10-page maximum report that the ministry requires. That'll be sent tomorrow along with the addendum. And I should have added, Madeline, and then in November, as Helen has pointed out before, a team of people review it. And then we'll be getting some feedback. We're also collaborating with what we call a pod of other districts, where we'll work together on each other's plans. And the public report, the education report on the website is an expanded version of that for the public to give more detail. It's essentially the education plan under the board strategic plan.
Right, any other questions? Okay, could I have somebody make the motion that the Board of Education adopt the FESL summary report for 2021 for submission to the Ministry of Education? Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. And taking a look now, we have community coach information that is part of our package.
Should there be an all in favor?
Sorry, all in favor. Thank you. I'm doing really well tonight. Okay. Community coaches.
I like that it's the post of responsibility.
That's all we got to.
I don't have a list of coaches. I have the post of responsibility under the coaches.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, I see. It's not under attached, because I looked it up under
Sorry,
attachment.
to the bottom of that page on the email.
I'll make the motion to approve the community coaches.
Thank you, Aaron. Seconded by Bill. All in favor? Any discussion related to that? All right. Out of district field trips. Recognizing that we'll probably get some more of these throughout the year. So we
I'll
have-
make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Nicole. All right. Moving on
All
to,
in favor?
all in favor? Now moving on to the Secretary Treasurer's Report, page 15 in your package.
I would like to present the HR support staff summary for the period August 27th to September 16th, 2021 to the board.
Any questions for Angela?
I'll move us on.
Move, thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
And Bill has a question.
And Bill has a question.
All right, easy one, but last year, some people in this building did a wonderful job putting on a job fair. Is there any talk of having one of those again?
Not that I've heard of.
We
So I
took-
would think that
We took part in a job fair
yeah, I
in
know
Harmony,
that
but we've already, the season of career fairs has already begun, and in fact, we've already had one with SFU online.
No, I meant for sports staff, they had one.
for staff
Oh, I'm
job.
sorry, great.
I
We
can- I can
actually have
look
more
into that.
vacancies right now for sports staff and teachers.
Say it again, Bill, I didn't catch it.
We actually have more vacancies right now for support staff than what we do teachers.
And this is the time of the year where some of those openings become available. So we'll always see a spike in hiring for support staff at this time of the year when they know some of those needs and budget pieces as well.
And there is a lot of postings out there, and I think they are filling them fairly.
Yeah, like it's, I know last year went over good. Like we had a good response, people come in and stuff.
All in favor? Okay, item 8.0, minor capital plan 2022-23, Angela.
In your documentation, you have what Chad and I and Cindy Detling have put together for our minor capital plan, which needs to be submitted to the ministry by September 30th. We have 4 buses due for replacement. Cindy Detling trucks all of that and waive the unit trust versus putting in a new engine, things like that. So we've come up with 4 replacements. And then the capital project requests we have are for Dr. Kearney and Buick Creek. We're trying to upgrade Buick Creek now that students are back to just update it, to give it a new facade, do some interior work, and really just upgrade it. And then same with Dr. Kearney, we're looking at skimming the outside, replacing windows and doing an interior upgrade as well that we're working with the principal for. So this is our minor capital plan as presented.
All right, could I have someone make a motion that we approve the attached minor capital plan? Moved by David, seconded by Madeline. Is there any questions or discussions related to that?
Just for my understanding, so if, because I know, was it Central that got parking lot paved?
Yeah.
Would that technically have to be under one of these, or is that if there's,
We've been taking the parking lots out of AFG.
okay,
And we do have some capacity there. Hopefully, we'll see what kind of dollars we have left, and then we can move it up to Kearney. Nothing not, it is on the radar, so.
but it's no longer, you said he took it out, the parking lot?
The parking lot, yeah. I haven't seen parking lots put in here. Usually he seems to be using the AFG to do parking lots, so. Because he has operating as well as capital, so.
There are some more portables for the 2 middle schools on the radar?
Not for the 2 middle schools. We do have something that will, I'll be presenting shortly, but we don't have portables for those right now. They seem to be filling the space they're in, so.
Calling the question then, all in favor? Moving on to other reports, BCSTA. Erin, did you have anything you wanted to add here? I don't think there's anything else. BCPC, Ida?
Yes, as Helen mentioned, the symposium is for November 4th to 5th, and it's going to be virtual. And also, I sent out email to you guys today. BCPC and BCTF have a joint training session, Thursday, September 23rd, 3:30 to 4:30, Wednesday, October 13th, 3:30 to 4:30. This will be recorded, so you can watch it later, and there's no need for registration in this because it will be on the Zoom meetings. And the information I sent to trustees. And the symposium there was a survey on the topics they had. They were, I looked at them and they were all really good. And they will get back to us on which ones were a high priority. And I went back into the survey, but once I filled it out, I can't see the topics again, so. But I did fill the survey out for our board. Which topics, and one of the ones, and I know Helen, you had looked at it as well before I filled it out, as was a recap and training session on local bargaining, so. That was one of our higher priority, I thought. That's my report.
Thank you. And our Pro-D committee, we haven't met or done anything with, so we'll move on to correspondence, 10.0. And that's just for your information. They're still looking to drum up before and after school daycare and daycare opportunities, but we've kind of got a lot on the go right now. But if somebody says, oh, I hear there's more, there is more, but as, I don't know how Stephen put it, but the concept was, let's get what we've already got on our plate going well before we decide to extend the platter. Moving on to unfinished business. The city of Fort St. John has already reached out about a Christmas mingle invitation. You remember last year we were supposed to do it at Ann Roberts Young, and then COVID and da-da-da-da-da. So they have reached out at this point, and I don't know where people are at, whether you're wanting to have it at Ann Roberts Young. They're saying that they're willing to host an event in the new City Plaza, and they had proposed a date of December the 1st, which doesn't work because it coincides with Academy. So there's a couple things I need to know. Are people really wanting to host, and do we reach back and say it's our turn to host, or do you want to do it at the plaza?
Be at the academy.
I'd say let them host.
Okay.
Because if we host in a school, we gotta follow the school rule. Yeah, it's just, I'd say let them host it this year. They can follow their rules.
Okay. So the person from the city that's looking to set it up is Naomi, and she was looking, if you look at, she wanted an idea of what dates would or wouldn't work, like if there was any no-go dates, because she has to coordinate booking the plaza. And she was looking at something for the week prior to December the 6th, but that runs into Academy, or she's away from the 6th to the 10th. So then you would be looking at doing something on the week of December 13th through to 17th, which kind of gets into Christmas concert time and school activities.
What about the 29th after our committee of the whole meeting? Like, could it be an evening thing, and after our meeting thing?
That makes sense.
Which month?
November 29th?
I don't know what their meeting schedule is, because don't they meet on Mondays too?
Yeah, they do.
Well, not every Monday though. What, their council meetings are every other? I don't know which, but you said she suggested that week, the week
Yeah.
before December.
Yeah.
Their meetings are typically the same time as ours.
Yeah.
Can we come back to this like during a committee so we can have I don't know, I can't hear you with the dates or anything, so I have no idea what dates you're talking. Like, is there an email? And I didn't see this letter,
You didn't see what letter?
this mingle jingle that we're talking about here.
It wasn't a letter. It was just a reach out email.
Oh,
Okay. All right, we can move that to committee of the whole. I just think that Naomi was trying to be right on top of it, but I'm hearing
Well,
that.
if you wouldn't just contact her and ask her,
Yeah.
if she suggests the time, it might be easier than us going back and forth.
If she could give us a couple of times, and we'll make it work.
Evenings from 6 to 8.
Evenings from 6 to 8.
The
Okay.
29th works for me.
That's perfect. We're all hearing it was 29th, so 6 to 8.
How long do their committee meetings go?
They're always done by 5.
If she's suggesting 6 to 8, it must be good.
Right, we'll put that forward. Okay. Angela, Ministry of Special Education funding increases.
Okay, so this is, just getting back to the, I'm sure I have my documentation. This is the different funding increases for level 1, level 2, and level 3. So for 2021-22, we're seeing an increase of $600 to $43,000. Level 2, we're seeing an increase of $200 to $20,400. Nope. apologize. I'm all kerfuffle tonight, I don't know what's going on. Okay, here we go, my apologies. So for level 1, we are seeing an increase of 1,850 to 44,850. This is for the 21-22 year. Level 2, we are seeing an increase of $880 to 21,280. And for level 3, we are seeing an increase of $450 to 10,750. And then just for the basic allocation, we're seeing an increase of $325 per FTE to 7,885. So, and the majority of that funding sits in the level 2 arena. Based on history, we're not too sure what we're going to get for the 21-22 school year until our 1701 count is done. So.
And that's information, thank you, that you're following up that we've asked for, so thank you very much.
Just trying to give you 2 years, I guess, instead of just the one. My apologies.
Right. I don't think we have anything under new business, but at this point, I'm a little confused.
No, we don't.
You don't? All right, Michelle,
Well,
PRT update.
thank you. It's nice to be here in person. I think I've sat at home most of last year. Mostly because I didn't want to come in here and sit here for 3 hours with a mask. And Helen, I respect you wanting to wear a mask and feel the way the teachers feel, but I couldn't imagine. I have to say that startup this year was okay. Once again, teachers are flexible. They, things kind of changed in August for everybody, and mask wearing again, and we have some exceptions. So teachers are doing their very best in a very complex and during a complicated time, I have to say. But I appreciate the work that the board is doing as well for teachers. And Ida, we do have that joint training. There's 2 dates for that, yes. I talked to our person that is going to be doing it with the BCPC person, and I think that they're going to have half an hour at the very end for questions. So there will be an interactive piece, so it'll probably go to 5 both days. So just to be aware that just keep that extra half hour. It'll be 90 minutes for people that probably want to be there. So there's, I think it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see how it goes from, having that training. And the other thing I just want to let you know is that local presidents in our northern zone will be having a meeting with Northern Health around any concerns that local presidents are having, and maybe hopefully Northern Health doctors can shed some light on some of our things that we're wanting to have answers from. And looks like it'll be another busy year for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Jenny, our QP president.
I thought I'd come tonight since some of you may know me, but most of you probably do not. I'm Jenny Copeland. I'm the newly elected president of our QP Local 4653. I was elected in June. Previously, I was the recording secretary and I was a clerical shop steward. So I come from the clerical background. I started out as the secretary at Charlie Lake for 7 years, and now I am the technology facilitator and teach and train everyone across the district for my ed. But I have done just about every job in this district, either as a TOC or a casual, except for bus drive and custodian. 2 jobs I don't think I could ever do. So just a few things. We do have just about an entire new executive. So they're just starting to learn what their job entails. We had our first meeting in person on Thursday at our Union Hall for the executive. Our hall isn't quite big enough, so we aren't able to host our members meeting yet, so we're still utilizing Zoom as our main platform for our meetings. But some of the things that have come up is that we still have quite a few vacant positions, as you identified, Bill. We're very low on EAs and bus drivers. Bus drivers seems to be the one where we're having a lot of issues right now. We've had a lot of drivers retire or quit or just not able to work right now. There's a lot that are on leave. And so what they've had to do is they've had to cancel the special needs bus. It isn't currently running. 2 bus drivers are actually picking up 2 routes. So their buses are over full. They've got a lot of kids on there. But they are doing what they can to make sure that the kids are getting to school. Our district has implemented a new program. It's a component of My Education BC, which is our online program, which is the online payment process. We have had a few bumps and wrinkles in the process. All except for 4 schools are currently able to use the system, and the ministry is working, the provincial help desk is working on getting those last 4 schools figured out why they're not functioning. But we are seeing money coming in on the online payment from parents. They're able to make their payments for their students' fees at the school online rather than having to come in or send cash or checks into the school. So I've talked to quite a few parents. They find that it has went very smoothly for those that have. For others, it's not quite so smooth because they keep getting an error message. So we have trained all our clerical. We've set up sessions over the next little while to work with them through the new accounting side of that. And then last week we came in and trained all of the school administrators, so principals and vice principals, so that they can actually support as well. Each school has been given a Chromebook where they can have the parent, if they need to come in with a credit card, and either the office clerical or the office principal, vice principal can utilize that Chromebook to take that payment and process it and then give the parents their receipts. So it seems to be working fairly well at most sites. What else has been going on? I've been in several schools. I've actually had the opportunity to go to quite a few schools, which I'm so grateful. Sitting last year and teaching and training utilizing Zoom, this year utilizing Teams, using WebEx, using Google Hangouts. I think I've used just about everything that's available out there. It is so nice to be able to work with them at their sites. We have several new clerical, and part of my job is to go in and sit with them and show them the ropes of working in the school. So I was fortunate enough to be at ELC first day of school. It was great to see some of those kids that I'd been their secretary at Charlie Lake. All of a sudden now they're all grown up on me. I've been in Presbyterian, Buick Creek, Upper Pine, and I have 5 elementary scheduled for this Friday. So they're neat and tidy. The schools are looking really great, and kids seem really happy. I do know we do have one that, you know, there's a few things that are being identified, but that's not too bad. On your note with the job fair, I truly think we need that. We're really lacking in our casual clerical. We don't have enough when I book in-person training for everyone to get to come, and we do need to be able to allow them that time to work uninterrupted on a lot of things. This coming week, we have 2 days of training so that they're prepared for the 1701, which is the most dreaded 4 numbers in a clerical's life, because that means the funding for the district. If they do not get that done and on time and correctly, you know, that's the money that comes in. So we work with them and help them and support them. That's coming up, and then we're moving into report cards, so that'll be the next thing that they have on their plates. But we do need some more casual custodians as well as casual EAs and bus drivers. If we had a job fair, maybe there's somebody out there that just was thinking about it but wasn't sure, and if we offer that opportunity and give them that chance to sign up, I think that would be really helpful for everybody. So thanks for allowing me to attend, and I look forward to seeing everybody.
4 schools you referred to, they're all rural schools?
Actually, no.
Oh, cool.
The 4 schools are Alwyn Holland, Charlie Lake, Bird Ambrose, and Upper Pine. And Bird Ambrose was one of our pilot schools that we started with in June, and because everybody had paid their fees, we weren't officially actually testing it properly. North Peace last June had brought in, I forget how many thousands of dollars at the end of the year using it for 1 month. So it has helped them a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've hit the questions from the press and public. You're our only public. Any questions related to earlier agenda items? All right. Thank you very much. We have to go back into our in-camera meeting because we didn't finish that. Take a couple minutes and get ourselves organized to move back into that.
So the,
Yeah, we need a motion to,
not the in-camera, but.
we need a motion to
public.
adjourn the public. Yep, I was just going there.
Sorry, Helen.
That's okay. Moved by Bill, seconded by David, all in favor?